We've got the lovely Matt who has joined. And Matt, thank you so much. I am
Great.
so sorry. My fault about the link.
It's all right. No worries at all. How are you doing?
That's a basic thing that I managed to get wrong.
It's like I was on 5 minutes early and everything.
Oh no! Oh my God! Thank you for being on 5 minutes early. Well, I hope you've got an extra 5 minutes. I don't know if you have to shoot off.
Sure. No, that's fine.
Fantastic.
Okay.
We will keep you on for a tiny bit longer than anticipated. Okay, so Matt, now that we've got you here, everyone's been waiting on the edge of their seats to see who you are. So could you give us a quick introduction, who you are, what you do, what is Hearst?
Sure. Well, Hearst is a premium content and experience business, what we used to call publisher. So we publish brands such as Cosmopolitan, Good Housekeeping, Men's Health, Esquire, Digital Spy. We do about 17 different brands. My name is Matt Hill. I'm Digital Development Director of Hearst, and I work across all of our brands, overseeing the central digital teams such as SEO, search engine optimization, e-commerce, video, design, and I work with the chief brand officers on their content strategies.
Oh my gosh. Okay, amazing. And when you say content strategy or like all of these kind of strategy terms, what does that actually mean?
What we put in magazines and on websites effectively. So what we write about, what we film, what we sell, what is part of the wider brand ecosystem. So what does Cosmopolitan mean to its readers and its customers? For example, Good Housekeeping, making sure that we have the right fit of content around the areas that we want to cover and that we are doing it in the right ways. My central teams are kind of disciplinary teams that work with all the brands. So the video team will shoot video for them, whether that's for Instagram, for the website, for YouTube, for Facebook, etc. And then you've got the design team, will do everything from design logos to designing the style guides for social, etc. So it's quite a lot of different things.
Oh my God, absolutely. And also like, because this has been something that we were chatting about before, your job being digital director didn't really exist 30 years ago, did it? It was
the internet didn't. I mean, so it definitely didn't. I mean, the internet, I think, kind of became public when I was 11. I looked into it, and I didn't have the internet at home when I was at school. I did my GCSE and A-level coursework at libraries, and I think Encarta, the CD-ROM, had just come out, so there was that kind of stuff. And I didn't really have the internet until I went to university, which is the first time I went to University of Central Lancashire in Preston, and that was the first time I had internet at the library. So I used to go there and be able to read up. And then it wasn't really until my first job that I really started playing around with the internet.
wow.
So no, it totally didn't exist. I thought I was going to be, I was good at English and art. And so it was definitely going to be something either writing or art-based. And I think for a long time, I wanted to write and illustrate my own books. So I guess you could say comic books, but I soon realized that it's actually different people write them and illustrate them. They're not normally done by the same person. And I started playing around. I was really into magazines. I bought a lot of magazines as a kid with my pocket money. It was a real boom time, particularly for video games in my era was huge. The Game Boy came out when I was 10. So like I was very into magazines like Total and Mean Machines and stuff like that. So I did like own projects on magazines at school. I went to Newton Farm Primary and Rooksheath High School in kind of Harrow. And that was very formative for me. And they really harnessed what you were into. So I was always doing magazines as my own projects, basically. And so that kind of made me start to realize that that was something I could maybe do. And then I went to college and did media studies. And we did a women's magazine as part of our coursework, which really made me kind of changed the way I looked at it. And it wasn't just about writing about things that were necessarily for me, but I kind of got into different audiences and really understanding the whole production process of it and realized that it wasn't just the writing, it was actually the kind of creating something that I was quite into.
Absolutely. And that will be so interesting for so many students to hear, like, you know, you can work at a magazine and you don't actually have to be a writer, you know, there are
so many different jobs. Yeah.
A very small amount of the roles that exist in Hearst.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't start as a writer. I started actually as, although I was writing in my spare time, I actually started as a sub, which is quite an old school job now. But the production desk of actually putting together the magazine, checking the spelling and grammar, flat planning it so that all the pages run in order and where the advertising goes and stuff. And that was really formative because I remember someone telling me really early on that like the production editor is kind of the only, and is the only person that sees the entire magazine apart from the art director and the editor, because they're the ones that work on every page. So my first job was a kind of, after university, I came out and went to an agency and just said, look, what do? I've got a journalism degree, because I did journalism at university, and they were like, well, you can be a writer or a sub. And the first job I got was a sub, and it was working across 10 different magazines at a place called Charterhouse, which I don't think it exists anymore, but it used to do like What Mortgage, What Investment, all of these kind of mortgage finance gazette, like really kind of dry business magazines. But they were weekly, fortnightly, bi-monthly. Like it was, you used to have like pigeonholes that you just like, you'd be constantly working on something. So it was a really good training base to learn how you make magazines. We used to sit next to the people that did the classified ads. Like it was, you know, you kind of, I've had quite a lot of learning experiences like that. Like later on in my career, I worked on Shortlist as a startup, which was the men's weekly that used to be handed out at tube stations. And again, that was built, that didn't exist. We built it from scratch. And those kind of experiences are kind of, you really kind of learn how everything works. And I think that's always something I've been very interested in, rather than just focusing on your little bit. How does the whole thing work? And that definitely came from that.
Absolutely. Oh my God, so interesting. So at what point did you start to transition from the physicality of a magazine over to digital? Like, were you one of the people that were like, I know digital is going to be
I'd love to say that I was. It kind of happened organically. So I had been working, so I worked on a student newspaper when I was at university. So I was very into print, and we won the Guardian Student Media Award. It was called Pluto, was the newspaper. And so I was very into the physical thing, and I got into working magazines. But on the side, there was this kind of burgeoning scene. I was very into music, and there was this burgeoning music websites became a thing really early on. And me and a friend set up a music website, and I actually learned Dreamweaver. At my first job, they had Dreamweaver on the computer. So Dreamweaver, I'm trying to think I don't even know if you've got an equivalent nowadays, but you build websites in it. Basically, you can kind of, you code the website, but it has a kind of WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get side thing, where you could effectively see it in real time. So you didn't have to be a really, really good coder. You could kind of build it and like, try and learn. So I built my own website, and I was writing so I was doing digital stuff in my spare time whilst I was working a print day job. And then I would say it was kind of Architects Journal had a website, and they were like, oh, why don't you edit that, since you're doing this thing in your spare time? And I was like, yeah, cool, I can do that. And then Arena launched the website and were like, well, you can edit that because you've got a website. So I was kind of the guy with the website at home at this point. But it was really when I went to Future Publishing, and I went and worked for T3, which is where it got properly digital, where we were managing a team that worked across both print and digital. YouTube started becoming a big thing. We were working on podcasts. I was kind of going away to events like CES, E3, Apple launches, because it's T3 is obviously a technology brand. And for the first time, when you work on magazines, you just kind of go away and you file your copy when you come back. But I was having to live report on things, and so that was where it really shifted for me. That's kind of brought the two things together, I suppose. Something I've been doing in my spare time, and something that my job really.
That's so you went from the guy with the website over to digital director of like an entire massive
yeah, there's been a few things in between, but yeah, I kind of moved over. And then once I was into digital, I mean, it was very clear that was I was the print editor of T3, and there was a digital editor, but it became very clear where it was going. And then I edited Gizmodo after that, in the UK for a little bit, which was digital only, but a very small team. So I kind of taught myself Google Analytics, and a lot of it was very self-starting. I wasn't really trained in digital. I kind of learned it on the job. And then I came to Digital Spy at Hearst about 8 years ago. Again, because there was a quite decorated editor here who I wanted to learn from digitally. I realized I'd edited a magazine, but I couldn't just go and edit a website because I didn't fully know that. So I kind of took a step back to be deputy editor of a website, and then built up and ended up being editor-in-chief of that. And we drove that to kind of the UK's biggest TV and movies website. Hopefully everyone reads Digital Spy, it's enormous. And then in 2019, I was BSME Digital Editor of the Year. And then after that, I transitioned to the role that I have now, which is a kind of cross-company role, working with all the brand teams and the editors of their brands on helping them.
Wow, gosh, oh my goodness me. That's like a really clear, like stepping stone kind of way of going. No, yeah.
Just keep putting your hand up. That's what I say.
I love it. And so now, like, tell us more about what you are in control of. Like, what do you, like, yeah, what are you in charge of? How much of like the digital space of Hearst is yours?
Well, we have obviously the brands are our most important thing. That, you know, they're our that, you know, we are a house of brands. That's what we're about. So what I have essential teams that work with them. So I manage the central teams. So the ones I've said before, so they all work with the brands. So we touch all of the brands' digital output in different ways. And then I have regular meetings with the brands and their chief brand officers and their editor-in-chiefs. So while I don't manage the brands, I work with them. We have quite a lot of kind of partner. I think my job description says partner about 15 times. Like, I think there's lots of partnering that goes in a company of this size, with lots of things that are going on. So I manage 7 teams specifically who work on every brand, and then I work with the brands on on their content and how they should work, and sometimes on recruitment, sometimes on direction, sometimes on new products, sometimes kind of we quite have a lot of kind of special projects, etc., where we might be developing something and you're kind of involved in that as well. So yeah, quite a lot.
Loads. I mean, it's a huge amount of responsibility.
Yeah, and we haven't even touched on product, which is a big thing. So like when you work in digital, something that underpins all of it is the product and you know, the kind of the CMS and the website technology, which is another whole thing which we work very closely with our international partners on. There's a Hearst International and Hearst US, and because that's it's a common platform across the whole of the company, not just UK. So there's a lot of liaising with other territories as well, and best practice sharing and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, and absolutely, I think this is something that's really important for young people to know, that there is so much technological stuff that is involved with the magazine. You know, you guys will be looking at data all the time, the actual upkeep of a website, like kind of technically, like coding wise, like all of these things, like you're saying CMS, what is that, central
content management system?
That's it. Content management system.
Yeah, no, I'm known as the acronym guy. I'm constantly having to give what does that mean? Like, I'm that guy. You know, when I was a sub in print magazines, I was always the guy asked how does the printer work? And now I'm the what does SEO mean? Yeah, I'm that guy.
Okay, well, it's good to know. And do you always know how the printer works?
Well, printers work very easily here now because it's much easier than it used to be. They're not standalone. They're all on a thing called Pushprint, where it's all synced up over Wi-Fi, so we don't have to worry about it. Back in the day, there was one in the corner of the office that you used to have to kick when it wasn't working. But no, luckily we have much better tech than that nowadays.
Thank God for that. Yes, you guys have upgraded your printers. That's good news.
Yes.
Okay. And so what is your advice for a 16-year-old who is interested in getting into, the publishing world and the digital side of it? What would be your kind of words of wisdom for how they can start prepping themselves now?
I think having passions. Well, I think there are 2 things. I think one is knowing it's never too early to research what goes into what you want to do, even if it's not publishing, even whatever it is. Like, I remember I was relatively good at technical drawing and maths, but I had, I'm sure it's much better now, but careers guidance wasn't great when I was a kid. And I had no idea that technical drawing and maths are basically the foundations of architecture. And I only realized what an architect was when I worked on the Architect's Journal. And by that point, as I'm sure you're aware, like, retraining to be an architect takes years. You've got to start really early on. And I wish I knew that. So I would say that get advice where you can from an early age, and know, because there are some things which take quite a long time and take a lot of training, and it's really good to know early on that what you need to do, because you can go past a time where it's feasible that you're going to do it. In terms of other things, I would say the best thing that I've always done is have passions of my own, and you never know when they're going to transfer. So, like, similarly, I was coding a website in my spare time, and eventually I ended up becoming a digital editor. That was serendipitous, but ultimately that was a company tapping into something that they hadn't employed me for, but I was doing on the side. And I've seen people run podcasts for companies just because they had their podcast on the side, and no one else in the room knew how to do it. So I would just always carry on with something that you're passionate about, and have something that's yours on the side as well as what you go into work as, because you never know what time the things are going to cross over. In terms of digital, I would say we're always doing lots of outreach and internships and stuff like that. I would also always try to do work experience, get to know people. It's an industry of people that know people, and I think that, like a lot of industries, and I would say, like, there are lots of things that you can learn, but like kind of connecting with people is the main thing. And so we try to do a lot of outreach, but I would say that also just reaching out to publishers and trying to find I know lots of publishers do kind of work experience schemes or 12-month intakes and stuff like that. So I would definitely explore that. And also there's so much in the I'm probably sounding dated by not saying TikTok, but in the era of YouTube, you can kind of learn a lot of stuff from home, and you can give yourself a real starting point. If you want to get into digital, teach yourself Google Analytics. It's like it's the base level that everybody uses. There are other software packages and tools that people use, but I mean, if you've got a working knowledge of Google Analytics, you're going to jump above certain people. I would say that certainly video is it's the future of all social platforms. I mean, it's the present, but I mean, it's where they're all going now. TikTok has been so influential. You look at like Facebook and Instagram now with Reels, and everyone's going that way. And so I think video is an area, and I say podcasting as well, is an area where there's only going to be growth. I find newsletters fascinating as a thing as well. So I just like staying abreast of the change and throwing yourself into it. And as I said before, always putting your hand up. The amount of opportunities I've got by being the only person in the room going, yeah, I'll do that. And I think that that's really, really important for people too.
Yeah, no, that is fantastic advice. That is absolutely brilliant. I will also put the link to Google Analytics down in the email that I'll send to everyone afterwards, just to make sure that
I taught myself it. I've got people in our business who are experts, and I would never profess to be an expert, but although it looks scary to start with, it really isn't. And I think that that's something that you can kind of get a head start on. And as I say, if you want to get into websites, start your own website. Like, as with everything, you want to be a writer. Writers write, right? So I think it's like, if you want to run a website, set up your own website, and then that's the best way of learning Google Analytics, because you're looking at it. And you've got a real test case in terms of you can see where traffic's coming from and what to analyze and stuff. Whereas otherwise, it's not a real life example. So do as much as you can.
Such a good point. I love that. We have our website is on Squarespace, in case anyone wants to give it a go. Great drag and drop template platform. It's really good. And we do use Google Analytics. So yeah, even a small like ours, even we use Google Analytics, and it's so useful. I would love someone to come in and already be well rehearsed, exercised in what
exactly. See, so you want to hire them already. So it totally works.
No, that is really interesting. Thank you so much, Matt. Honestly, that has been a fantastic interview. So many things to take away there. So interesting to hear about, what goes on when you are digital director and your own career story. It's been really, really good to have you here. Thank you so much.
Good stuff. Thanks for having me, and have a good day. Hope everyone does.